Hi there, my name is Kim and these are the Wayrider Chronicles, an alternative look at current affairs. Hi everybody, back to some African news. Here we go. The major financial publications, Financial Times, Bloomberg, etc., published a story that in Zimbabwe, where I used to go to school, to combat inflation, they have introduced a gold-backed currency that will somehow stabilize the local Zimbabwean dollar. So we need to back up because we're talking about inflation. And quite frankly, every country's inflation is probably unique or is due to a unique set of circumstances within each country. If we go back through history to the Weimar Republic, which was after the First World War in Germany, where they had hyperinflation, to various South American countries, Argentina and Brazil, that also experienced levels of extreme, what they call hyperinflation. Nothing to do with the inflation that we in the Western economies are experiencing at the moment, which is causing lots of angst, as they call it, or consternation, especially in America, that, oh my God, prices have gone up. We're talking a couple of percentage points. We're not talking about thousands of percentage points, which is what hyperinflation is about. In Africa, it comes to, or especially in Zimbabwe, it links into a theme I've talked about before, which is to do with the people in power stealing the state's resources, which at the same time causes a mass exodus of local people overseas from these countries. Zimbabwe is a little bit far away from the Mediterranean, so they don't tend to go to Europe that much, but they certainly go to South Africa. And there are many Zimbabweans working in South Africa. Just take a Uber cab in South Africa and invariably it will be a Zimbabwean who's driving it. In the UK, many Zimbabweans work in the healthcare business, healthcare sector, sorry. So what happens is that these people leave and we have a situation whereby, and I've spoken about this before, whereby the regimes in place are actually stealing these people's future of their country because they had to leave. The people in the country have got nothing, so they've got to scratch around. How does this link into inflation and this gold-backed Zimbabwean dollar story? Very simply, what happens is that these rulers, or the ruling elites, especially in Zimbabwe, steal the country's resources. Like a lot of African countries, and Zimbabwe's in that category of essentially a commodities export producer. So they have ferroalloys like nickel, they have gold, there are diamonds, and there is tobacco, and other commodities. However, the revenue from these commodities, or the revenue from the export and sale of these commodities, invariably gets channeled through local politicians and local people who, to obtain the monopoly or the biggest share of that particular commodities pie, they pay money to the local politicians. Essentially, that money which is getting paid out to politicians and a lot of not only politicians but the men involved in the middle of those transactions, and the military, because they're also involved in the whole scheme or scam, should be a better word. What happens? It doesn't go into the country, it gets stolen and again exported to probably the Middle East. Dubai is a big center for offshore Zimbabwean money. And it doesn't get put into the country. So, but there are people in Zimbabwe, and they have to, and the country needs basic services. Roads, hospitals, electricity, etc., etc. And all the civil servants that have to run these basic services. So if you don't have the money to pay these people, what do? They print it. And the whole circle carries on again. 2008, they had similar problem under Mugabe and his regime when they ran out of money. So they essentially started printing it. They went through a number of, there's about 6 or 7 of them. They issued bonds backed by agricultural products, bonds backed by just about anything that would work. They even went so far as to issue a currency that was backed by something called RTGS, it's real-time gross settlement, which I'm not looking into. Basically, they ripping off, taking money out of transactions between banks and using that as a currency. There was which I think a lot of people have forgotten about, there was an attempt last year to have some sort of cryptocurrency which didn't go anywhere. And now we've got gold, because apparently there's a ton of gold in the central bank of Zimbabwe and this will stabilize the currency. It's not going to, because the money, once again, will continue to be stolen. This means that the Zimbabwean government has to print Zimbabwean dollars, and they just keep on printing more dollars, which causes more inflation. And as they say, rinse and repeat. It keeps on going around and around and around. Where is it all ending? Another bout of hyperinflation. Whether this bout of hyperinflation will eventually cause the local population to rise up and say, right, we've had enough of this, let's get rid of this lot. It hasn't happened since independence, which is 1980, so is there a good chance it's going to happen this time? Fingers crossed. Possibly, who knows. See you guys.